Welcome to the Graybeard Chronicles podcast. Your hosts, Brian Halstead and Kevin Harkins, are two gray-bearded patriots who love God, their family and friends, and their country. The Graybeards are here to inspire, inform, and educate you on a myriad of topics they are passionate about. Brian and Kevin have a strong desire to share this with you to help you live your best life. Sit back and enjoy this amazing podcast as the Graybeards pass along the wisdom of the ages.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. I'm Brian Halstead.
And I'm Kevin Harkins.
And Kevin, we're here to pass along some wisdom of the ages. What the heck does that mean?
We're not perfect, but we do have gray beards. And that means we've got some significant life experience, some life lessons, and some perspectives that are worthy of passing along.
Well, I think that sums it up nicely. Let's get to it. Kevin, good evening, man. Good to see you.
Let's get to it. Yeah, this is going to be a good one. We had a good sort of ramp up to this as we were getting started. And I was thinking about something, Anish, when you were talking and you revealed your age, which I won't reveal unless you want to say it. But no, yeah, I probably will actually. And the reason I would say that is because all of this thought while the intro was playing, when you talked about how old you were, you're 42. Mm-hmm. I remember that's the age my father was when I went to college. And I thought, wow, when he was walking me to the airport, I was the youngest of four children, and we went to the we went to the gate because you could do that. You know, the family could go with you all the way to the gate at that point. You didn't blocked off. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, man, my parents are old. They are older than dirt. And now I'm, nearly 20 years beyond that. And you are a young man.
Well, so, we're all in dirt mode. But by that standard, I'm there. We've all tipped over. But it's funny though, because my dad was a little bit older than that when one of the nicest moments we had was when he was dropping me off in my acting days to theater school when I was 20 years old in Manhattan. And I remember, this is a guy who was an immigrant, moved from India to Canada in the 70s. Things were very, very tight, so this was not really a person who really indulged in big hopes and dreams and was never really the person who loaded you on with that. But I remember, maybe it was the age, or maybe it was just like that turning point that happened. Certainly it's been happening a little bit in my life with my kids where, we really connected because I was looking for an apartment. I was broke as a joke as it was, but he saw the best of it in a way that I wasn't able to see it in that moment, because at the moment I was like, I've made a terrible mistake. I don't know anyone here. I'm completely alone. This is a completely new city. I'm going to get totally stomped on. But he, could see the potential of it. And maybe because he had already, had to leave and chuck aside an entire life to come here, he wasn't weighed down by that. He could say, hey, look, take a look. Don't worry about it. Look, a month from now, you're going to know people. 2 months from now, you're going to be walking these streets like you know it. A year from now, this is going to be a place that's part of your history and you'll never forget it, And he was right, but God knows at the time there was none of that, none of that.
There's a lot of serious wisdom of the ages going on there already. And that's, what we're about. So, Brian, who are we talking to today?
Well, before we get to that, I got to throw this out there, talking about age and, how it's relevant and so on. I remember my dad's 40th birthday party.
Okay.
Right? And I thought we'd be, burying that guy soon. I was like, because the way it was, it's like, oh my God, he's over the hill, and I was probably, I don't know how old I was then, but I'd do the math, but that hurts my head. But anyways, I was like, oh my God, we're going to be burying this guy soon. And of course, that's not the case. He's still alive and well today. And who knows, might break 100. But it's all relative.
All right. One more funny story. I got to tell this because it really is hilarious. My mother was 35. I was 10. We were watching the children in our house were watching the Newlywed Game with, I think, Bob Newhart. No, not Bob Newhart. What was that guy's name? that ran the Newlywed Game. Anyway, this was in the early 70s. And but the Newlywed Game was, I mean, it was very edgy for its time. I mean, there was all kinds of, innuendo about sex and all this kind of stuff. And my mom came walking in, and she didn't like us watching that show. So she was like, turn it off. That's not for you. And I, at 10 years old, speaking to a 35-year-old woman, and we know about women when they hit about 35. And I said, Mom, I know what you don't want. You're too old for this stuff anyway. And she looked at me and said, boy, do you have a lot to learn. And I thought, isn't that funny?
Like I'm in my prime, you dumb little bastard.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. We're way
out
up
of the frying pan into the fire, right? Like, yeah. It's true though, isn't it? Isn't it always the way? Like my 8-year-old son Mickey, it's like he's just crested the first stage of boydom where it's like, yup, I know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna go in there. I know what you're. He's literally giving me driving directions. I'm like, you don't know how to drive. Like you don't know anything that you're talking about. Right. But I guess perhaps this is the push and pull that always happens between parents and kids. It's like this constant thing where if you're doing your job right, maybe, you're having these constant moments where it's like, I'm regretting the amount of confidence that's been instilled here. You know what I mean? Because I'm just getting challenged on
I think there's somebody to blame for that, but or to thank for that. I'm sure it'll be a thank for that many years from now.
Yes, many years from now.
Yeah, exactly. But you'll have to deal with it, the fallout in the interim.
Yeah, exactly.
So this very energetic gentleman that we're talking with tonight is Anish Majumdar, right? Majumdar. See, I screwed that all up, Kevin. You said it way better than I did. But Anish is an expert in the hidden job market. He's a coach, and over the past 12 years, he's helped thousands of people that understand how to take the reins of their own lives and get out of the habits that cause them to be trapped in certain situations and really take control of their own destiny and stop this whole job searching mentality permanently. And he's been featured in Fast Company, Business Insider, Glassdoor, IVX executive, and his webinars, videos, and articles have appeared in all of these publications. And it's cool to talk with you, Anish. And we've got a chance to talk with you a little bit before this. And man, your energy is just contagious. And I know, you said you live in Rochester, New York, married with 3 children. And it's just it's great to talk with you. And I have no doubt that you do a phenomenal job coaching folks, and look forward to hearing more about this hidden job market and just some of the other things that we've already talked about as far as freedom and et cetera. So
thanks, man. I'm happy to play a small part in the ongoing Graybeard Chronicles, man. I mean, you guys have something really special. I'm happy to be here, and I hope my personal hope is that some of the people who are listening to your awesome show, that our conversation might maybe inspire them to maybe act a little bit more boldly professionally than they might otherwise, or take a risk that they might not otherwise do. I definitely believe that in the midst of all of this craziness that we're experiencing here, this is an amazing opportunity time. Like this truly, when things get hard, when things get uncertain, this is when big moves can be made. Whatever your industry is, whatever your niche is, whatever your track is, when leaders don't know what the future holds, when they don't understand, and when their existing plans start to really falter and fall apart, as we've seen many companies do, this is when the receptivity to someone new is maximum. Right here, not when things are booming and all of that. That's great for the CEOs that you're never going to see and the guys who get the huge payouts. Where people like us make our fortunes, it's right here. It's right in these situations where people are like, oh my God, should I freak out? Should I just keep my head down? Don't make a fuss. The people who make a fuss in the right way, it's exactly right here where you can find, people making, instead of 1 level up, 3 levels up. Instead of 20% of a salary raise, you're talking about a 50 or 70% raise. This happens every single day. Yeah.
Anish, I want to launch you off in a certain direction because you said some things. Brian said some things introducing you, which I liked very much, and then you just sort of jumped right into it. But
Yeah.
Brian and I talk about this a lot. We live in many respects, unfortunately, in a world that is becoming increasingly where people are, I'm a victim. You know, everything around me is not my fault. There's all of these things that are going on that I can't control. All the odds are stacked against me, and you can name any excuse you want to pick, but it paralyzes people. And what you're saying is exactly the opposite. And we agree with you, by the way, completely.
Oh, yeah.
That where there's change and chaos, there's opportunity everywhere.
Yes.
You just got to have the mindset to decide you're going to go after it. So please talk to us about what you see there a little bit more with respect to not being a victim, rather getting off your butt, getting out there and getting it done.
Yeah, I remember, you know, this whole path towards being a career coach, it happened completely by accident. And at the time, this is a little over 12 years ago, I was a journalist, freelance journalist, pitching editors, you know, articles and things like that, going out on assignment, just trying to make a living, you know, and I was doing all of the normal, you know, job seekery things. The only difference really between an actor, which is what I was in my 20s, and then a journalist before becoming a career coach, is that you're rejected a lot more and you're pitching a lot more, you know? And so that's what I was doing. At the time, a crappy Toshiba computer, I was out there pitching. My family, my wife and I, we wanted to have a family, but there was no financial way that we could do that. And I just felt like I was dying on the vine doing all of the right things. Like I just kept getting all of the standard advice and it just wouldn't work. And finally, basically out of desperation, I picked up the phone and I just I did something you're never supposed to do, okay? There's always supposed to be some kind of a gatekeeper that is between you and the person with the money, you and the person with the offer. And I just got to a place where things were we were in such bad financial states, we were having trouble eating, going to the grocery store, that I was just like, forget it, who cares? Let's break the rules. And I picked up the phone, found the number online, called the editor, spoke to this editor for 15 minutes, had a heart-to-heart, and instead of like pitching, which is what I'd been doing for the last 5 years, I just said, look, let me just listen to this guy. Like I have him on the line, let me just listen and try to understand what's going on with this guy. How is he seeing what's going on? What are his priorities in terms of, they already have an editorial calendar. Why do I have to come in cold? Let me listen. And instead of trying to pitch my way in, I just listened, connected, and then figured out a solution right there on the phone that actually goes to what he actually wanted. And that lent to one of the biggest assignments I had. And it started to change the whole way that I thought about it, because we've all heard about this thing about networking your way to a job. Someone got a lucky break, someone knew some person, right? But if there's a way that you can systematize that to work for yourself, to work in a way that actually consistently delivers the result, then you can bypass 98% of the garbage that has nothing to do with you. Like 98% of the hiring process, you're not talking to anyone who knows your job. Most of the time, they don't even know your skill set. It's just some gatekeeper, basically, who's there paid to not make any risks, right? Talk to the people who are actually feeling the effects of what you're solving, and all of a sudden everything changes. But that was the first of the many breaks that changed it for me, and then later for the people that I worked with, was realizing, wait a minute. We gotta stop this idea of gatekeepers in between. There's no more like, I hate dealerships. Like I love cars, I hate dealerships. There's no reason for that, okay? There's no reason why Honda can't directly negotiate with me, except for at some point, either legislation or us said, I'm so stupid, I need some kind of a middleman to take a gigantic cut, which he or she does not deserve, to get a shittier product. And so the same thing happened in hiring. So the first thing that broke it was realizing, wait a minute, who am I targeting here? Who am I even talking to? I didn't even dare to talk to the heads of these companies, because these were glorious, crazy people who were nothing like me. You know what I mean? Like, so the people, first of all, that I was even targeting were internal recruiters, low-level HR, people that wouldn't be a threat. The first thing that shifted it was, oh, wait a minute. These people, not only can I talk to them directly because of the online world that we live in, among other things, but if you do this right, they're an infinitely more receptive audience to you than some person who's, a glorified 9 to 5, who's basically anything that's new about you, anything that's unique about you, that's up here. That's great. That's a reason for me to make time out of my calendar. Down here, why am I going to put myself on the line to vouch for you to my boss? Can you tell me that?
It scares them.
Of course. Well, what do I have to gain from it, dude? I mean, I'm happy to have a job. I'm going to risk my job because what? I think I have a great belief in you based on a 1 hour interview. Come on, dude. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And the worst part about what you're talking about, and there's all kind of ways to break through it, and you've already mentioned some of them. And today, when you apply for a government job, U.S. government or state government job, the gatekeeper is actually a computer. It's not even a person.
Yes.
And if you don't have all the right keywords in your resume, the right number of times, you get filtered out before you even make it past the first stage. And
ATS systems are a big issue that a lot of job seekers run into. Not to say you can't make traction in that. That is our philosophy has always been be devastating in every channel that is available to you, so open up new channels. But at the same time, if you've got a standard channel, hey man, if you know a better way to address that conversation or that one-on-one, you can do more in a 5-minute opening in a completely one-sided interview than somebody give another person an hour to talk about whatever they want, right? So that there is that sense there. But when it comes to the ATS systems, the obvious problem is, okay, in order to make my resume, so to those who don't know about the ATS system, so a lot of times when you're applying to jobs cold, the first person who sees the resume is not going to be an actual person. It's going to be basically software who is vetting for certain keywords and stuff. That used to be, when they first came out, it used to be extremely it was stupidly programmed. So the way that people would try to game it would be to stuff it full of keywords, and again, we're stuff that has nothing to do with your capability to excel in this job, right? So then things got a little bit more sophisticated, and so now keywords are contextual. So you don't need to, if you want to express leadership, you don't need to say cross-functional team leadership 50 times in your thing. You can pull out certain ideas there. But here's the big problem, okay? Taking aside the fact that in order to get past that initial thing per job means that you would have to reverse engineer your resume to somehow mimic this job posting, which, by the way, for most companies, they're not building that posting based on the actual pain that's being experienced at the company. Because think about it, like that thing's going to get shared everywhere. You think I'm going to be sharing what the heart and soul of what's going wrong in our company? Of course not. Most of the time, they're taking copy pasted verbiage for similar job postings and putting it together for that job. So I'm trying to change my resume to get your attention by aping a bunch of stuff there that isn't relevant. And then once I'm in, here's the problem. So I got in based on a bunch of false crap. Okay. So now I'm interviewing with you and you're asking me questions not based on what's really going on, which would give me some leverage, give me some traction here. You're making up questions based on non-existent problems, and I'm trying my best to answer it. The big problem with that is whoever wins that game, there's almost no way that you're not going to get lowballed, and there's no way that you're not going to get micromanaged, because this is a human nature thing also, as much as it is a hiring thing. We don't respect people who don't get to the truth of what's going on with us. Like, you're an expert, right? You're an expert in sparking growth through marketing or operations or whatever. Great. We had 3 interviews. But in all of that time, you're so smart, right? You never got past the BS job posting. You never got past the questions that I just made up to basically get information from you while giving up nothing in return. And now you're the best of them. So I can lowball you. I can do whatever I need to do to you, pal. Because listen, if you had another way of getting in here, you would have done it. And if you would have had another option, and if you would have had leverage, you never would have said yes to that second interview, let alone the 5th one. So the whole process in some sense is a little bit of a bait and switch that's designed to allow me to peer into the heart and soul of exactly how much power you have in this situation. And most people have none. So what happens is it doesn't matter how far up you rise. I've worked with people in tech. I've worked with Indians in tech. This is a huge problem where you'll have Indians who moved to America on H-1B visas here. They're no longer on an H-1B. They transitioned out and all this. And it's not until we start working together and we start going through some of the history that we're like, hey, you know what, pal? You're at a C-suite level right now. You've consistently been making a shadow 20 to 35% less in each and every one of these jobs. You had the title, you had the responsibilities, you had it all, but you were gypped one after the other, after the other, after the other, and you don't feel like you have that job, do you? Because you're just as micromanaged, you're just as easily thrown aside. This thing happens all the time, man. There's like a whole underclass that's opened up in every industry that is unspoken, but that is deeply, deeply reliant on the simple answer to this question, basically, which is whatever your professional situation is right now, if I fire you, if you cannot go out there easily on your own and generate as good or better, you're done, man. You have no power in this situation. You are going to volunteer your family for a crapshoot that could very well mean the destruction financially, short-term for sure, long-term perhaps. You don't know. Go send out your resume, man. Send it out for 30, 40 hours a week. Go ahead. Go interview. This is not, it's a question of leadership and courage and a new way of thinking about how you move forward with your life, as much as it is, there. Maybe the sad thing in this is also kind of blowing the brains out of the false idea that any company or any job ever could save you long term. You know what I mean? Like that maybe needs to go. Like we're all free agents now. We're all mercenaries. Like we all are.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian, then I'll go.
Now, so I'm fascinated by the information that you're sharing here, and I'm glad you're on here talking about it. Before we get too far down the conversation path, though, call out how folks can get a hold of you. I want to make sure we get to that early. Where can they find information about you?
Absolutely, I appreciate that. Well, there's two major things. Tap the hidden job market /ASAP. That's a special link where to those people who are interested, if you'd like to learn over the course of about an hour, it's a free class that I put together. If you'd like to learn the strategy that our clients have used, but not just our clients, at this point, thousands of people have taken this exact class and they have used it to start generating opportunities through the hidden job market, that would be a great link. The other one would be helloanish.com. That's our HQ if you want to go deeper into some of our career trainings. And then I guess the last one would be if you're on LinkedIn, hop on over, put in the word Anish career. There's probably only one. Hit me up with a follow. And we're here, almost every day, sharing wins from our clients and people who are, committed and further down this path of doing it a different way, to sort of, give people that sense of safety, as we're moving forward.
This topic of helping people get into the job market or advance their careers and all that is really, for all adults, it is a relevant topic. And the way you talk about it is really fun to watch just because of A, your knowledge, B, your energy. But the bigger question I have is just because I find it interesting. And how does a person like you, you were an actor, you were a journalist, and now you're a how to get a job and advance your career expert. How do you do that? How do you make that? What's the journey there?
I do firmly believe that if you play your cards right when it comes to your life, and certainly your career is one part of that, the best parts of it should be beyond what you plan. I never planned on a family. Easily the best part of my life. Like nothing I ever planned even came close to that. My acting career, and then by extension my writing career, those were bolts of the blue in some sense. Those were ones where movies. I escaped from that. I had a mom who was going through schizophrenia, so I needed art and all of this, and it was a vision that I had before. This path was nothing like that. It could not have started in a less inspired way, in that I was helping job seekers. I was using my writing talents to rebrand people and to help them market. And I was using my communication skills as an actor to show them, hey, here's what's going on behaviorally, for example, in this interview room. Stop getting out of your head. It's not all about this, right? 7% of communication is verbal. So you got to bring it in here. What's actually going on here? Man to woman. What's happening here? How can you change it? So I was doing all of this stuff as a sideline, right? And, this guy calls me, Arthur. I think he was like in his 50s, ostensibly to work with me. The guy basically was in tears. He was an architect, had been an architect in New York for over 20 years. And he was telling me, I feel like I've screwed up my entire career. That's what it basically boiled down to, because he's like, after this whole life, I have no equity in this company. They're going to fire me. They've already hired younger people. It seems to me like I'm already outdated. I don't know how to get another job. I don't know why I didn't do any of this before. And now I'm trying to make up for lost time. And so I got off that call, and it was, aside from my kids, probably one of the few genuinely not as selfish moments in my life, because it just bothered me. It just really bothered me that anyone, let alone someone who works hard his whole life, let alone someone in this country who works hard his whole life, could get tossed in the ash heap. We already have a disgraceful track record of treating our old people here. We already treat them on the junk heap of society the minute that happens. But now we're gonna push this to people who've never done anything wrong, to people who it just bothered me. So where it started was, I made a promise to myself, and I didn't have the answer there. But the promise I made was, if there is an end-to-end way to land the types of jobs that you want, not what somebody else tells you, if there is a way, I'm going to find it. And so I spent 6 years continuing to build it up, learning with entrepreneurs, business development experts, so many people that who also, quite frankly, told me, listen, you're wasting your time, because people who've been employees their whole life don't have an entrepreneurial bone in their body. They don't have a courageous bone in their body. I've been told all of this. They're glorified wage slaves. Like, even if you gave them an end-to-end answer, which we've had now for years and have been teaching it, it's not even gonna make a difference. It almost broke us. I gave up everything to it, and about 6 or 7 months before bankruptcy took us over, the final kind of pieces with regards to the call strategy, which had been a big missing link, came together, and we were able to rebuild the rocket while it was about 1,000 feet away from crash landing, and moved it on from here. But that crazy, the weird crazy energy of some, the business had failed for years and years, in my opinion. It had failed for so long. Everyone was like, you're an idiot to do this. What are you doing spending time? These people aren't worth it. They already know how to get a job. I'm like, but they're not happy. They already know how to get a job. Yeah, but they're underpaid. They're severely underpaid. They can't even send their kids to college, and they're working 40, 50 hours a week. Come on, man. And so I just got to a point where I was willing to commit everything to see if I could create an answer. And I'm a creative person, I believe that when there's not an answer, I don't just look at what's come around. I believe what Steve Jobs believed, which is the thing that will free you is realizing not a single thing that is around you has been created by a person who's smarter than you. So there's no reason for you to be afraid of anything, but just try. And so, so it's kind of weird, because we're successful now, and we'll continue to be. And the only reason we are is because we found it, and we cared more about the answer than anyone else, including the big boys like Monster and Indeed and all these other guys. But there's still a part of me that's like, dude, you shouldn't have let me survive. Like, I'm a maniac. Like, I believe in being 100% free and giving a giant middle finger to anyone who would dare to exercise any kind of authority. The bootlicking for law enforcement and all of that, I got real problems with. I really, really do. I really, really do. And so all of this is also, in some sense, if you want to call it, an excuse for someone who has believes in my core. If you don't take ownership over the important things in your life, sooner or later someone's going to screw you. And the career is the one thing you have that is going to ensure whether your kids eat, whether you are able to die with dignity, whether any of that stuff happens. So maybe it's time to stop trusting not just companies, recruiters, third-party people. Just put it on your own shoulders. Put it on your own shoulders and use it and do something with it. You know what I mean? And there we go. 2,000 people afterwards, you know, the battle continues, but it still feels like, I feel like a grizzled general who's been in the middle of the jungle for 8 years, and we've got little headquarters here, and we've got weaponry and stuff like that, and people have gone through, and we've got our militia and stuff like that. The whole world does not realize it yet. The world is sleeping on this yet, but the intensity of someone who has never left the jungle is exactly the way that I feel. I've never left the jungle. Never.
Yeah. So I gotta ask you to expand on the comment about law enforcement and the bootlicking in law enforcement and so on. Tell us more about that, because I
don't believe that. I don't believe that the go-to for us here, and I don't want to get waylaid by this, but the go-to for every single person on this planet should be the authority starts with me first. It starts with those that I love first. It is not looking at some third party as a solution, and that includes that. I don't have a bone to pick specifically with law enforcement. I have a bone to pick with people who let go of their own authority, who let go of their own power for any third party. It can be political, it can be police, it can be your community advisors. What are you doing to change your life right now? And if you're not doing 100%, if you're not changing 100%, I don't want to hear your bloviating about how this world is going to be better or what your plans are. I don't care. Could not express it any simpler than that.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. You won't get any disagreement from the two of us. That's for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And honestly, those that pull the levers of power at the highest levels are very afraid of people like you and like us, because if we're not relying on them, they can't control us. They don't like that.
Right.
That's a problem. And
the game is tiresome.
Yeah.
And it's old.
Right.
And again, the vacuum is a lack of creativity. It's a lack of people daring to create something new in their lives. In other words, a huge thing that holds back super talented people. Brand drifting. In other words, like adding on to what you do, like saying, okay, fundamentally what I'm putting out there into the world, I'm a project manager. I've been a project manager for 12 years. I've worked in a bunch of different companies. What I am is a senior project manager. You're not, right? If you ask yourself, what have I actually been paid for, right? No project manager is ever paid to be that, because in the eyes of anyone running a company, if I could automate your job to software, if I could third party it, I would do it. The only reason you're paid for is to advance one of those 3 or 5 goals that drive a company forward. And if you understand that, and if you can start the process of rebranding yourself, talking to people through the lens of what you're actually paid for. Like for me, I'm an expert in developing resumes, LinkedIn, interview coaching, but I'm not paid for any of that because no one wants those things. What they want is a job. What they want are better career prospects. What they want is to make more money for their kids. If I keep my brand at this low level, then I'm stuck into an argument with you versus whatever you think the relative importance of LinkedIn or the resumes. But the thing is, you don't know. You don't know. If you knew, you would have solved it, right? The importance is to go high level. The importance is to pull your camera out and to say, look, just because I've looked at myself one way, that's not the end all and the be all. There's 50 different ways anyone can brand themselves right now. And some of them are way more conducive to you than others, right? Like, I'm a career coach who specializes in generating offers through the hidden job market because I've hustled to generate my own offers my whole life. I don't know what I could teach you about being a cop-out HR, wage slave running through, how to be, how to answer gotcha questions better. I can tell you a better way of addressing that.
You haven't studied that. You haven't lived that.
Play to what you are. Play to what you are. Use it as the right way versus the wrong way. Make an example. Almost everyone listening to this has 15 different stories of bosses that have done things the wrong way, companies that have done the wrong way. Now, how come we're not talking about that in an interview? How come in an interview, there's this idea that you're supposed to be this Pollyanna-ish character who has never done anything except work? Again, sucking at another teat, sucking at the employer's teat. Is this what we've come to? That, there's a work gap on your resume, right? God forbid you spend more than a couple of months not working a job. I think everyone should. I think everyone should live a life so that you die with because you're going to have nothing but regrets if all you've done is work. Let's be real. But that's an issue. Work gaps are an issue, right? If you're going through this thing, work gaps are an issue. You know where work gaps are not an issue? At the C-suite. Up there, that's understood. That, you know what? You're working to become dangerous. That you're working to take risks in your career. You're working to say no to that, move that forward. Isn't that funny that if you're someone who's trying to grow, you're going to find much more, not just mentors, people who see the world your way. You're going to see it there, then you're going to see it in the ranks of those people who are most likely going to be taking the interview for you. That's the correction piece. When I was in college, oh my God, me and my best friend Rob, it used to drive us crazy. We'd see these guys, blowhards, dating all of these beautiful women, and we were like, man, we couldn't get a date. And we're like, what the hell's going on? What's wrong with us? We would talk between ourselves. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? Why can't we do what's going on? And it wasn't until I had graduated and had a family of my own that I realized the problem was I was talking to my best friend the whole time for 3 years. The problem was I never talked to a woman. I never put myself out there. I never dared to consider that maybe I was enough just the way that I was, and I was enough of a human being, and maybe I had a right to talk to someone. Maybe I had a right to try to build a relationship on my own. But people don't feel like they have that right. They see a CEO out there, they think that this is a different human being. It's just a guy. It's just a person. They go to the bathroom. They pee and poop like everybody else. There's no one special. But everyone needs to be helped. And right now, because of how desperate it is, that whole upper strata is asking themselves crazy questions, and incentivization for what is called referred hires, which is what the internal job search is all about, is at a all-time high, because standard job searching is falling apart for employers as much as it is for employees. They're just not advertising it. But they're pushing it, dude. They're pushing it. If you're a senior member at a company, I'm going to financially reward you. I'm definitely going to try to reward you professionally. If you can solve some of our strategic problems by saying, hey, don't go out there. Don't hire. I know someone, okay? I know Brian. You need to bring this guy in. You need to talk to him. His appointments, his calendar is extremely busy. So my suggestion to you, if I set up an appointment with you and Bryant, don't waste his time. Answer every question he gives you. And if he says that it's the right move for you guys to work together, move heaven and earth to make it happen. And this is happening everywhere. This is how actually the kids who were richer than us probably got a heck of a lot more of a faster start than we did. It's all foreign to me because I'm the child of immigrants. But dude, guys, just because it's new to us, this is the whole thing. Successful people, when they're exposed to something new, they don't let their insecurities overwhelm them and drop judgment and cut out. I'll be honest with you guys. We grow in a pretty working class neighborhood here in Rochester. I love the people that I live with. But a big problem is you start talking about a very different way of doing something, chances are that's not going to work for me. I'm not smart enough. I'm not them. I don't have that education. When what I'm saying to you, what I'm yelling out is you don't need to be another person. You're going to be dead before you become someone else. You, right here, with a little bit more courage is all you need. A little bit more courage. A little bit more of this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, this is...
Yeah.
This is
or not. You know what I mean? Or not. The way I look at it is everyone's life on their deathbed, we're all running our theories of what you think life is. The way you go through your life, the way you handle your family, the way you handle your professional life, all of that is Brian's theory of how life works. It's Kevin's theory of how life works. It's Anish's theory of how life works. If you are confident that your way is better, if you are confident that your way is going to be happy, do it. Do it. But the only reason I'm doing what I'm doing is you mentioned, I look relatively well preserved for 42. Ask yourself, why does a man who is my age look like they're falling apart like that? You think it's just bad diet?
No.
You think it has something to do with maybe, I don't know, making different moves in their life, asking different questions, challenging authority, not spending 6 years eating crap from a toxic boss, which happens every day?
Right.
Come on, man. It's not rocket science. What I'm saying is not anything that you don't know in your heart, if you're honest. And if you're not hearing it,
right, there's
a deeper problem going on than just your career.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that's so interesting to me about you, Anish, is, you are an expert at this whole job market thing, but the little sort of comments that you throw out about why things are the way they are cover this incredibly broad spectrum. You are absolutely the easiest podcast interview we've ever done, because we just sort of point you in a direction.
And he's off to the races.
And
well, hopefully the howitzer doesn't go out of control too much.
No, it's really, really good stuff. And there's so much good advice that you're pumping out there. But Brian, is there something that's on your mind that you were wanting to say? Because a couple of times I saw you kind of leaning in. And
yeah, I was waiting for a gap in there, but
yes,
Anish is he's just rapid fire, which I love.
Right.
And at the same time, I had a question that cropped up a couple of times in some of the things that you said. Of the people that you have worked with to date, any military folks? So I'm sure we have a lot in our audience that are transitioning out of the military, maybe folks that have just retired or done an enlistment or two, or just served a brief time but didn't retire. And it's a different world for them. And I think sometimes people have some challenges transitioning and understanding the value that they bring with them from the military, and how that translates and transfers into the rest of the world.
Yes.
What information could you share to help those folks?
I think probably the most important thing to remember going into something like that is that the illusion is going to be, I'm transitioning out from the military. I have all of these skill sets and all of this. Some of it seem relevant, some of it is not. All of it seem very, very difficult sometimes to communicate to someone who's not from the military. What do I do? And a lot of times when you're in that kind of a job search, oftentimes you'll end up, at least for the next role, if not more than one, taking some kind of a transitional role, something that hey, you know what, it falls significantly beneath what I was going to do, but I'm going to have to pay some kind of a price to make that transition happen. The reality, almost, you can't say it for everyone, but in almost every case that I've ever seen, and certainly every person that I've worked with who has a military background, what you said is exactly right. The problem is translation. The problem is definitely not value. And really the hard thing is working with someone in a way to say, look, how can we do the right kind of a deep dive into your history and offer the right kind of a perspective in terms of what you've done, so the translation piece gets taken out, so that when someone is talking with you, when someone is looking at your brand materials, whether it's your LinkedIn profile, resume, whatever, that they see someone who understands, like that in terms of the verbiage and all of that, they understand that, okay, this guy worked as, let's say, an engineer, but he figured out before he went out into the market, he understood, okay, it's not just these skill sets I was doing while I was there. In the private sector, here are the closest parallels to that. Here are some of the trajectory there. And where possible, for example, in my resume, I don't want to structure the roles in the way that I might have when I was in the military, when I was looking at that. I want to make this all private sector centric. So all military verbiage is gone. Everything is described as universal and as simply as possible. And you want to, above all, ask yourself, what is the outcome? In other words, you're looking at these roles. And I get it. Like there's an impetus to say, okay, when I work this job, here are all of my responsibilities, all of that. The hardest thing in some sense is to shift your thinking to say, okay, anything that could have been on a job description for these roles does not belong in my resume, because anyone who is good at what they do, top tier, someone that we really want to collaborate with, it is expected that absolutely A to Z is going to be there. What we want to know is, what did you do differently? What did you do special? What was the value add? What wasn't there? So maybe in a military role, you might, dive deep in there and be like, okay, well, maybe none of these came in my last review or whatever, but I had a huge impact on the people that I worked with, specifically over the course of this last year. Okay, that's something I could highlight. And so for the role, you might have two or three tight little bullet points that just go outcome, 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 nothing else. And then you go on to the next. Then you go on to the next. And so the hardest thing, I think, is to keep the faith and really understand that the challenge is actually not that you have less to offer in terms of the transition. The challenge is, in most cases, you've done way more than the traditional person in the private sector. And so that's good. But then there comes a flip side of a responsibility, because that probably means, and what I would probably recommend is, before going directly into the market, is to spend a little bit of extra time dotting the I's and crossing the T's. One of the most valuable things anyone can do is hop onto LinkedIn, build a little bit of what's called a competitor list. So if I say, look, my number one dream right now is, I want to be, the director of engineering for these types of roles that are here. I'm like, oh, it's a little bit of reach. Okay, let me start by pulling up the profiles of senior directors of engineering, VPs of engineering in the areas that I want, in the sectors that I want. Spend some time studying their profiles. You're going to get massive clues on how to brand and position yourself, including how are they leading off? What types of keywords are they utilizing? You can use that in your resume as well. And it'll give you really strong, it's actually one of the biggest secrets hidden in plain sight, which is, if you're in job search mode, and I would absolutely say this, if you're making a military transition, you're going to be tempted to look at the job postings that you want and then building your brand sort of based off of that. My advice would be, skip the job postings, but look at the actual competitors. Look at the actual people who have these roles, if not higher roles, on that path that you want. Break it down. Look at what they're doing, build your brand and build what's going on based off of that. I can, with very little caveats, I can promise you that is going to be infinitely more effective for the vast majority of people out there. Their brand is going to work way better that way, by drifting in the laneway of your competitors versus the job postings, for the exact reasons that we were talking about, in terms of, it's not always effective and all of that. But don't give up hope, and don't be afraid to translate. And above all, make sure your resume, like that first third, right? Don't cram it full of military verbiage, okay? That's what you just want to avoid, okay? That's all. No MOC, no, none of that stuff that's there, okay? Even if it's like written, and simple is good, guys. Simple does not get the kind of credit that it deserves, Talk simple, express what you do in a simple way. And include the military experience in case that's not obvious. Include that in the resume as well, because
it's such great advice for the military folks and that are transitioning. And you actually hit all over it, Anish, and that was that the folks coming out of the military are so incredibly trained and experienced. I mean, usually compared to their private sector people at the same level, they're way beyond them, just because they've seen so much, they've done so much. They've done it in so many different environments, and they got to figure out how to communicate that. And you talked about that beautifully in the private sector. But the thing that I hadn't heard anybody say before, and this is what I think is particularly valuable, is go look at your competitors. Go look at the people who you want to be, and then figure out how to take your own brand and put it in that kind of language and allow that to be what speaks on your behalf.
Yes.
And that's freaking great advice.
The first impression, you can control it in our day and age. Back when the first impression was exclusively face-to-face, there was so much more involved there. So many things had to be on point, and there was such a limited ability in terms of the change that you can make happen. The advantage of our times is that you can control the first impression sort of channels. So LinkedIn is a prime example of that. So if before I speak to you, if you control what I see, you control the aspects of the information that I am exposed to. So each one is further establishing your authority. It's further establishing your unique way. If I have, let's say, 4 or 5 of those touch points before I jump onto a call with you versus just same situation, same person, but me jumping on cold, that's so much less work that you have to do. And that's so much, it allows you to take relatively early stage relationships and really almost effortlessly speed this thing along and make the other party or parties feel very comfortable with it. What's happening is that you're controlling touch points. You're controlling the little easy to miss signals that coalesce around a certain first impression. And that first impression is one of the most powerful things that someone who is looking for a new job can and should control. Like that thing of like the difference between, oh, who's this? Maybe I'll reach out to him versus, oh my gosh, dude, take a look at this guy. Like this is exactly what happened,
you remind me of something, and Brian, I know you're wanting to say something too, but another thing you just said. I'm working with a branding guy right now on one of the companies that I work in and with, and this guy is phenomenal. But he told me straight up, and it was shocking. I knew it was quick, but he said people will form their first impressions looking at however you're representing yourself online through your website, through your LinkedIn, through whatever. They will make up their mind about you, about that initial impression in 7 seconds. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's how long it takes them to decide. 7 seconds. And so, because they're looking for certain words, mm-hmm. They're looking for certain images, they're looking for certain titles, they're looking for certain presentation, and it's not always right. It just is what it is. And so you can land on a landing page of somebody's their website, their LinkedIn, their whatever, just like I did with you when I was looking you up earlier this week. Mm-hmm. And it was very quick. There are things that you pick up on that you don't even realize you're picking up on that come up later. And I'm thinking things about yours, for example, that, and it makes an impression. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's,
it's someone said this to me, which I think about a lot nowadays. I forget who it was. He said, the future is already here, but it's not evenly distributed, So the people are already here. They're already living the life using the paradigms of the quote unquote future. It's just not, there's no tipping point yet. So as long as it's a few thousand here, a few hundred here, one person here, one person there, there's not that general thing. Not to be too looking over the edge of the cliff here, but I will say as a professional, the worry about the wave of automation, it's not coming exactly in the way that people think. It's not just safely like, oh, well, I'm not a truck driver, so, I don't have to worry about it. It's already happening. Like the stuff that we're talking about, consider it this way. Automation is the block that is keeping 80 to 95% of the workforce at a certain level. And then those who are understanding how to get beyond automation, but not just get beyond. For example, the people we work with, they use our in-house automation platform. So we've reversed it. So we actually use our in-house automation to scale LinkedIn. So we can make sure that you're reaching out to several hundred people or several thousand people who are targeted and all of that, and we control the messages and all of that, right? The future is already here. There's layers of technology that are operating on top of layers, and there's things that are happening there. So many of the rules that are for me are not for thee, and it's not really like that. But there's a huge opportunity that, because what you said about those 7 seconds, it's true. But what's the advantage is the baseline for making that happen is finite. Like there's a finite number of places that you can activate and move it for. And the other thing is human nature will push this thing towards your thing, because you have to understand, you don't have to match up. Your process, your brand does not have to match up with the way that I think. You just have to get to my pain. That's all. You just have to resonate to my pain. It doesn't matter if it's exact. I don't think I'll be honest with you guys, there's not probably a single client I've worked with, aside from the Indian clients, who was like, you know what? I'd love to work with a 6'1", non-bachelor's degree having, super angry, rambling career coach out of nowhere. They don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. The only reason is because I understand the hand on your throat better than you do.
Right.
That's the only reason.
And I think there's a couple of things, and kind of want to wrap things up talking about these two things, because we've talked around them, about them, and in my opinion, haven't specifically called out the importance of them. There's two key things that have been, I think, following along in all these conversations that we've had: communication and connections.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you can overstate the importance of either one of those. And I think back to the conversation that you were having about the editor that you talked with. You made headway with that guy because you listened to him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big thing with communication that people often miss, is that communication is two-way, and that you have a transmit button and a receive capability. Yes. And we're all too eager when we're seeking jobs or whatever to just press that transmit button and leave it on, and not take our hand off of that and give time for the receive and process that and listen to the valuable information that people are sharing with you. Because you talked about, you want to take people's pain away. Well, you can't find out what that pain is if you don't listen to what they're telling you.
Yes.
And so you've got to be able to pull yourself back out of that communication scenario, the transmit button, and listen to what they're saying and process that, and then offer information directly, targeting solving that problem or easing that pain.
Big time. The transmit button thing that you're talking about is what I've observed. That's a big reason why I'll see otherwise deserving job seekers not get the kind of traction on the networking and relationship building front, because the way in which they're doing it seems very obvious that the only reason that you want to have a conversation with me is because you need a job. And that's okay, that's fine. But what you're saying is a one-sided conversation. Another way of saying that is a transactional conversation or a transactional relationship. And people don't want that. One of the other secrets, just like with the drifting in the laneway of your competitors, talking about communication that really changed it for me. I would consider everyone listening who's thinking about experimenting a little bit here, make a commitment to listen, yes, and to help the people that you're building a relationship with, no strings attached. That's the thing that changed it for me. In other words, I got to a place where I'm like, look, I'm never going to, like you said, I'm not going to get the trust and the rapport necessary from these high-level people as a job seeker in this transactional way. So what can I do? And the aha moment, and it spurred a whole way that we train on having the conversation now. But the aha moment was realizing, I was talking with someone and they're like, so, look, listen, Anish, I've got a busy day coming up here, listen, rather than us spending 15, 20 minutes getting to know each other, why don't you send me the resume? You're probably looking for a job, right? Send me the resume and we'll, do it. And I just spoke from the heart, really respecting and admiring someone and making it clear that the payoff for you is in the interaction itself is very, very important. But also, I just told him straight up, I'm like, look, I'm not here to hit you up for a job. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what you guys are experiencing. I don't know anything about that, okay? What I would like to do, what I've realized, and the reason I reached out to you in the beginning is because I saw this parallel. This is every day. This is the big pain that I see. This is what I'm doing my best to solve. I think that there's real parallels here between our journeys. And I believe that if we had a conversation here for 20, 25 minutes where we kind of open this up, I think there would be massive value there. And that's it. That's all I'm looking for. That's all I need here. Okay. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. That's on you. Right. And what's amazing about that, and that happened out of desperation for me, as a job seeker, but realizing, walls go down. You don't want to hit me up for anything here? Great. And now we talk. And here's the great thing. When we talk now and you realize, cool, I'm giving Brian exactly what he needs. Like he's telling me, and through his behavior, through every that, which is totally true. Like I don't look at anyone I'm talking with as a prospect first or a client first. If that happens, that's great. If not, no biggie. If you get a job, great. I might name drop you. I might use you that way, but I'm good. Like I want to do it. If I'm out there and I'm doing that, and I'm out there, there's no real competition after a while as well. And I think that's the cool thing about this pathway is like if you start moving down a path that says, okay, I want to listen, I want to learn, I want to understand what's going on with these people, I want to do my best to help. A, I get a unique pathway, and B, when I identify your pain, when I'm looking at this thing and I'm realizing like, okay, do you realize, Bryant, that you want to grow this company, you want to do that, but the very ways that you're doing it, because you don't have someone who's actually connecting the dots between here, this is going on, and this is going on. Here's what I would suggest. Here's what I think we should do. When we start moving in that way, what's so powerful about it is that A, you can't say, oh, this guy just wanted a job, because I told you, man. I told you. The only reason we're talking right now, the only reason we're exploring is as equals to see if we can trade notes. That's one. And the other one is, if you say no, it's no longer a question of you saying no to a job candidate, which gives you this psychological power, apples to oranges. If the only hope that your horrendous situation is going to be solved was through our conversation and where we went, you finally started to feel that, then you can say no to me, but that's saying no, not just to a professional, it's your mandate as a leader. Every leader knows that when we hit up certain challenges, we're not going to be able to plan our way. That if you have an opening, you have to jump. And if you don't, you're going to carry that seed of cowardice inside of you for a long, long time. And I know because I've had the calls. I mean, I've been out there. I have the scar tissue, so I can tell you, the people that we don't work with, the people that not a single one of them just magically gets better. Yeah, they get a lucky break maybe. They get a lucky job. Can they repeat it? No, they can't. They all go like this because they came close and then they didn't. And they don't have it in them to repeat and redo. And so that's the flip side of all of this. That's why communication and the business of generating offers cannot simply be a question of positive, positive, positive. If we're talking serious leverage, real leverage, then it's got to hurt to say no to you. And right now, that's one of the big problems with the job market right now. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. I want it to hurt. If someone goes into dialogue with you, Brian, and they say no, I want them up at 2:30 in the morning, 3 in the morning, saying, my God, am I stupid or something? Am I an idiot? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Did I just make the big mistake? That's what I want. For everyone I work with, I want the hiring agents to have ulcers over whether or not they're going to be able to get you in time. And if they do, they're going to get your asking price and they're going to say, oh my God, thank you so much, And I know that too, because when I started, I was writing cover letters for $50 a pop. That was my ratio, right? Now we're operating, 3-figure X to a different road, but it's not the capability changes, but the capability was not the reason for that. That had nothing to do with my capabilities or how good we are. And maybe that's the final thing, and the thing that I still feel sad about in some sense, that, like, there's so many other things than just how good you are at your job, and if you allow yourself to get even 2%, 3%, 4% better at those areas, that'll make your life. Like, that'll give you a bigger competitive advantage than all the MBAs and executive MBAs in the world. There's plenty of people who have that. There's not that many people who care enough to help, to actually put myself out there and say, no, dude, I think that you and your team can solve this. Like, I'm not, if you don't think that this is going to work, fucking don't do it, dude. I mean, but I believe it, and I believe that we can, and I believe that we should, and we should do it this way. And if we want to structure an offer, I think we should do that too. And the first time that happened for me, I was crapping myself. I was like, I couldn't believe that it actually worked. The first offer that I generated that way, no job posting, no job, just a relationship, just two honest people. I was like, I could not believe it. I was for sure it's a prank or something like that. And now with all of these people, I still have that feeling. Like, I can't believe that there's this much, man. The job market is so much bigger than we think. Like, there's so many more jobs out there than anyone. Like, we need to stop being depressed about this. We need to stop moping around and all of that stuff. Like, there's a way more jobs out there. A huge percentage of them are not advertised. So go ahead. Go ahead, man. Time's short, dude.
Plenty of room at the top.
Yes, indeed.
Plenty of room at the top. Absolutely.
Good stuff. Awesome stuff, man. It's going to be interesting to go back and listen to this again, because I know there'll be more and more.
I hope I give you guys some good stuff. I really appreciated the questions as well, and you're absolutely right that the communication and also the self-belief inside of ourselves, you know, to say like, hey, like it's all right. Like, I got a right to talk to people. I got a right to communicate. I got a right to even make mistakes if I need to, you know, like that tends to be the thing that for all of these people we work with, it's these simple human things that tend to be the ones that I find myself having to encourage and come back to, you know, simple things like, you're all right. Like, you got this. Like, you know, your 20-year career is not going anywhere just because you've been in job search mode for a couple of months, you know, like, you're okay, you know, but don't get in here. You know what I mean? Like, let's get you feeling good. Let's get you, you know, remembering like this is all short term, man. Job searches are short term. Like, the biggest mistake is to make long-term weird plans about your life and where it's going to go based on the job search, you know? Like, it's like going to the dentist, you know? You're doing something good. It's going to have a good outcome, okay? Not saying it's not going to suck a little bit in the chair, you know? But just remember what it's for.
No doubt. Well said. All right. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed listening with you, you know, listening to you and having this conversation with you. And like I said, I'm eager to go back and listen to it from start to finish and
yeah, it's great talking with you guys.
Kevin, any parting thoughts?
No, it's I think you've summarized it great, Brian. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I think it will be very, very helpful to our listening audience to soak this up. So much good information was put out there in a very short period of time, and it's great stuff. So this is one that people will get a lot out of going back to and listening to over and over again.
I was just going to say the same thing. You know, we haven't called that out before on any podcast. And this one, I think it's important to call out. Don't listen to this just one time. Don't watch this just one time. Watch it once, process it, come back and watch it again, because you'll pick up. It's kind of like that movie that you watch for the third time and you realize something that you didn't see the first two. That's incredibly, you know, compelling. I still feel that way
every time I watch Inception, you know, like I'm like, there's there we go. Or, you know, I like there's the additional layer of craziness that is making me question what came before. I really, really appreciate that, guys.
Nice. All right. Well, Kevin, I'm not going to forget to hit the button this time.
Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Have a good evening.
So hold on for a second, because we got to close this thing out. No matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing, make sure between this podcast and the next, you take time to
enjoy the ride.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. Please subscribe so you'll receive notification when new episodes are available. To learn more about the Graybeards, visit their website, graybeardchronicles.com.